My boyfriend told his mom I wasn't wife material, so I stopped acting like one. I was carrying a bowl of mashed potatoes to the dining room during Sunday dinner at Zach's parents' house when I heard him say it. His mother was leaning close to him at the table, asking when he was finally going to pop the question. And she said, "For years is a long time, honey. People are starting to talk." Zach laughed and glanced toward the kitchen, where he thought I still was. And then he said, "Mom, relax. He's fun for now. But let's be honest, she's not exactly wife material." His mother looked relieved and said, "Oh, thank God. I was worried you were actually serious about her." His aunt nodded like this was reasonable. And his dad smirked into his wine glass. And I just stood there in the doorway, holding those stupid mashed potatoes while my whole chest went cold. I set the bowl down and sat through the rest of dinner with a smile plastered on my face. But my brain was running through the last 4 years, like a highlight reel from hell. I was the one who remembered every birthday in his family, and bought gifts and wrote cards with his name on them. I planned every holiday gathering, tracked Zach's dentist appointments, and reminded him about his own mother's anniversary. Free dinner every year. I did all of that because I thought we were building a life together. But apparently, I was just fun for now. Entertainment. Until something better came along. That night, I decided that if I wasn't wife material, then I was done doing wife material work. I started by deleting all the reminders I had set for his life. His aunt's birthday came 3 days later, and when Zach showed up empty-handed, she gave him this wounded look and said, "You forgot my birthday?" And Zach looked genuinely confused, because he'd never actually remembered it himself. The next week, he missed his dentist appointment because nobody reminded him, and the receptionist called to say he'd be charged a fee. He walked around asking me why I didn't tell him, and I said, "Tell you about your own appointment?" And he just blinked at me like I was speaking another language. Then Thanksgiving planning started, and his mother called me to ask about coordinating dishes and arrival times, and I said, "Oh, you should probably ask Zach about that, since you're his family." She was silent for a long moment before she said, "Zach doesn't know how to plan anything." And I said, "That sounds like something you should work on with him." The silence in our apartment used to be filled with the sound of my productivity, the hum of the vacuum, the chopping of vegetables, the tapping of my keyboard as I responded to his mother's emails about the family reunion. Now the silence was different. It was heavy. It was the sound of a strike. A week after the Thanksgiving phone call with his mother, Zach came home to a dark kitchen. For 4 years, Tuesday night was lemon herb chicken night. It was his favorite. It took me 2 hours to prep. "Hey," he said, tossing his keys on the marble island. An island I used to wax once a week. "Smells like nothing in here. We doing takeout?" I didn't look up from my book. I was sitting on the sofa, a glass of expensive red wine in my hand, the kind I used to save for us. "I already ate," I said simply. "There's some cereal in the pantry, or you can download that delivery app you always talk about." Zach paused, his hand hovering over the mail I had stopped sorting. "You already ate? It's only 6:30. "I was hungry," I shrugged. He lingered, waiting for the punchline, for me to jump up and say, "Just kidding. There's a plate in the oven." But I just turned the page of my book. "Okay," he said, his voice trailing off. "Weird, but okay." He ended up eating a bowl of soggy Cheerios while I ran a bath. Through the door, I heard him shuffling around, looking for his gym shorts. "El? Have you seen my blue Under Armour shorts? The ones with the zip pocket?" "No," I called out, sinking into the bubbles. "They aren't in the drawer. Then they must be in the laundry basket." "But they aren't clean?" "I guess not." I heard him groan. Usually, I did laundry on Mondays and Thursdays. I made sure his gym gear was always fresh, folded with the specific KonMari method he liked because it saved space. Now, his gym gear was a mountain of salt-crusted polyester at the bottom of the closet. I wasn't being petty. I was being not wife material. If I was just fun for now, then I was a guest in his life. And guests don't do the host's laundry. The real test came 2 weeks later, the Millers' annual Christmas gala. Zach's father was a senior partner at a law firm. The gala was the event of the year. For the past 3 years, I had been the one to pick out Zach's tuxedo, ensure his shoes were polished, buy the hostess gift for his mother, and most importantly, memorize the names of the firm's partners and their wives so Zach wouldn't look like an idiot. 3 days before the event, Zach was lounging on the sofa. "Hey, did you drop my tux at the dry cleaners?" "No," I said, painting my nails a vibrant, aggressive red. "Why not? The gala is Friday." "I forgot, it.His." I hadn't forgotten. I had watched the date approach with the cold precision of a sniper. "I've been so busy with work. You should probably run it down there tomorrow. They might charge a rush fee though." Zach frowned. "I don't have time tomorrow. I have that meeting with the Henderson group." "Bummer," I said. On the night of the gala, Zach was a nervous wreck. He had ended up steaming his own suit. leaving a visible water stain on the lapel. He couldn't find his cufflinks, the ones I usually kept in a velvet box on his dresser. He was sweating. "Where's the gift?" he asked, checking his watch. "The Joe Malone candle set for my mom? You got the one with the silk ribbon, right?" I looked at him, dressed in a stunning backless black dress that I had bought for myself. Not to compliment his suit, but to make me feel like a weapon. "I didn't get a gift, Zach. I thought you were handling the family stuff this year. You know, since she's your mom. You always get the gift. I don't even know what she likes." "She likes her son being responsible," I said, clicking my heels across the floor. "We're going to be late." The party was a disaster for him. Without me whispering names in his ear, he called Mr. Henderson Mr. Harrison twice. He forgot that the senior partner's wife had recently lost her sister. When his mother, Evelyn, approached us, she looked at me with a tightened expression. "Elena," she said, her eyes scanning my dress. "A bit bold for a firm party, don't you think?" "I think it's fun," I said, beaming at her. "And Zach told me I'm the fun one, so I'm just playing my part." Evelyn's smile faltered. She turned to Zach. "Did you bring the centerpiece for the table? I asked you to bring that specific Italian vase from the storage unit." Zach looked like he wanted to swallow his own tongue. I forgot, Mom." "You forgot? I told you 3 times. Elena usually writes these things down," Zach blurted out, looking at me accusingly. I took a slow, deliberate sip of my champagne. "Oh, Zach. I'm not your secretary. I'm just your girlfriend. And since I'm not wife material, I figured I should stop worrying about wife responsibilities. It's much less stressful, honestly. You should try it." The silence that followed was delicious. Zach's father, who was standing nearby, choked on his scotch. Evelyn turned a shade of gray that matched her pearls. "What are you talking about?" Zach hissed, grabbing my arm and pulling me toward the balcony. Out on the balcony, the winter air was biting. Zach was shaking. "What was that? What is wrong with you lately? You've been cold, you've been lazy, and now you're embarrassing me in front of my parents." "Lazy?" I laughed, and the sound was sharp enough to cut. "I've spent 4 years running your life, Zach. I've been your personal assistant, your chef, your maid, and your social coordinator. I did it because I thought we were building a future. I did it because I thought you saw me as your partner." "I do," he yelled. "No, you don't. I was in the doorway, Zach. At Sunday dinner. I heard you tell your mother I wasn't wife material. I heard her say thank God. I heard your aunt and your father agree." Zach's face went completely white. The bravado evaporated. I was just talking to my mom. You know how she is. She's old-fashioned. I was just trying to get her off my back about the marriage thing." "By demeaning me? By telling the people who are supposed to be my future family that I'm just a placeholder? A fun distraction until you find the woman you actually want to respect." "It's not like that," he stammered. "It's exactly like that. Here is the thing about wife material, Zach. It's a job description you don't get to assign to me while paying me in fun. If I'm not the woman you're going to marry, then you don't get the labor of the woman you're going to marry." "I'll marry you," he said suddenly desperately. "Fine. If that's what this is about. We'll go get a ring tomorrow. Is that what you want? To win?" I looked at him, really looked at him. I saw the water stain on his lapel, the panic in his eyes, and the sheer selfishness of a man who only offered commitment when his laundry stopped getting done. "I already won, Zach," I said quietly. "I won my time back. And no, I don't want a ring from a man who had to be starved into realizing my worth." I handed him my champagne glass. "I'm taking an Uber. Don't worry about the lease. I've already signed a new one. My movers will be there Monday while you're at work." "You're leaving me? Over a comment?" "No," I said, walking toward the exit. "I'm leaving you because you were right. I'm not wife material. Not for you. I'm far too good for the position." The next 3 months were a study in chaos for him. I moved into a sun-drenched loft on the other side of the city. I blocked Evelyn. I blocked the aunt. I kept Zach unblocked for exactly 1 week, just to watch the texts roll in. 7 a.m. "Where is the spare key to the mailbox?" 10 p.m. "My mom is crying because you didn't show up to her birthday brunch. She says you're being cruel." Tuesday. "How do you get the smell of burnt plastic out of the microwave?" I didn't reply to a single one. I started going to the gym for me. I started cooking spicy food, the kind Zach hated. I got a promotion at work because, shockingly, when you aren't spending 20 hours a week managing a grown man's schedule, you have a lot more energy for your own career. The climax of Zach's realization happened in March. It was his sister's wedding. I wasn't invited, obviously, but I had friends in common. I heard the stories. Zach showed up late. He had forgotten to pick up his father's gift from the engraver. He had worn a shirt that wasn't ironed because he couldn't figure out the settings on the new iron he'd bought. But the breaking point was the wife material replacement. Evelyn had spent the last 2 months setting Zach up with appropriate girls, daughters of her country club friends. Girls who were wife material. He brought one to the wedding, a girl named Claire. Claire was beautiful, wealthy, and perfectly pedigreed. But Claire had been raised exactly like Zach. She had never done a load of laundry in her life. She didn't know how to manage a man. She expected to be managed. At the wedding, Zach apparently had a meltdown because Claire hadn't reminded him to bring his speech. He was the best man. He had snapped at her, and Claire, not being a placeholder, had dumped a glass of red wine down his front and left before the cake was cut. I ran into Zach 6 months later at a coffee shop near my new office. He looked older. There were bags under his eyes. He was wearing a shirt that had a slight yellow tint to the collar. The sign of someone who doesn't know how to use bleach correctly. Elena, he said, sounding breathless. Zup. I was wearing a tailored suit. I was on my way to a meeting. I looked, quite frankly, incredible. You look happy, he said. It sounded like an accusation. I am. Very. Look, I wanted to say, I'm sorry. I didn't realize how much you did. My house is a mess. My family is a mess. My mom keeps asking why I can't find a girl like you used to be. I smiled, and this time, it wasn't a plastered-on mask. It was real. That's the thing, Zach. You and your mother thought wife material was a personality trait. You thought it was something I was. But it wasn't. It was a gift I was giving you. It was love in the form of labor. He looked down at his coffee. Can we try again? Just dinner? No expectations. I'll even cook. Well, I'll try to. I reached into my bag and pulled out my phone. It buzzed with a text from Mark, a man I'd been seeing for 2 months. Mark, who had taken me out for my birthday and had researched my favorite type of flower without me ever mentioning it. Mark, who made his own dentist appointments. I can't, Zach. I'm busy. Doing what? Being fun for now, I said, winking at him. As I walked out of the shop, I felt the sun on my face. I thought about those mashed potatoes I had held in the doorway all those months ago. I realized then that the coldness in my chest hadn't been a sign of a dying relationship. It had been the feeling of a fire being extinguished so that a better, brighter one could be built in its place. I wasn't wife material. I was the architect. And I was finally building something for myself. The wedding invitation arrived in the mail, but it wasn't what I expected. It was an invitation to Zach's wedding. He was marrying a woman named Sarah. I saw a photo of them on social media. Sarah looked exhausted. In the background of their engagement photo, the house looked cluttered. Zach looked happy though. He had found someone else to carry his bowl of mashed potatoes. I didn't feel a sting of jealousy. I felt a wave of profound relief. I looked over at Mark, who was currently in the kitchen. He wasn't waiting for me to tell him what to do. He was searing steaks and checking the timer on the oven. Hey Elle, he called out. I noticed we were low on that coffee you like, so I grabbed some on the way home. Also, I handled the RSVP for your cousin's wedding. It's on the calendar. I walked into the kitchen and put my arms around his waist. You know, I whispered, leaning my head against his back. You're excellent husband material. Mark laughed, turning around to kiss my forehead. Nah, I'm just a grown man who loves you. There's a difference. I smiled. He was right. And that was the only material that mattered.